like I said, I don't think, we're not expecting anyone online, and Harrison Potter can't attend, and Stephen Fellows tendered his resignation. So, yeah, I think we're good to go. No one in the audience, which is useful. The additional agenda item we spoke about earlier was
Webpage.
yeah, the webpage issue. So we'll address that after the recurring discussion on chairs, if that's good with everyone. Good with everyone. Does anyone have anything else they want to add to the agenda? No? Good. Minutes. We have 2 months of minutes. Does anyone have any thoughts? They looked, I gave them a skim. They looked thorough. I didn't look for detail. It's not like I remember anything these days anyway.
I have the tiniest little correction for the June. I should be stricken from the.
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
attend because I was on a boat off the coast of Alaska.
Oh, yeah.
So
Right,
I haven't perfected my ability to be two places at once yet. So
Still working on that?
I'm still working on that.
Quantum computing is still a little bit off.
Yeah, my entangled self.
So that seems minor enough to approve with the expected revision. Anything else? Nope. Okay.
Can we approve these both together in a single vote, or do we have to do month by month?
I was going to propose that we approve them both together. I think it's a minor item. So, yeah, I propose we approve these minutes. I think I need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Great.
I'll send a revision with
Yep.
your name deleted.
Yep. And just make sure Karen's CC'd. Should be good. Any further thoughts on chairing? It sounded like we had a decent diarchy idea last month. Two pro councils, if you will.
Yeah, I think Jim may take like the helm and then I'd act as assistant, or I forget the wording we're using.
No, you have to have the
Okay.
responsibility. He'll help you figure out how to do everything.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll actively work together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which, you know.
I'll just recycle agendas from a couple years ago.
Yeah, we'll
There you go.
we'll bring up
Same topics.
Inflation Reduction Act items and stuff. Okay, cool. So, yeah, just in case with the getting ready for pregnancy stuff, we should, if we can, we should probably officially decide on that this meeting, just in case I can't attend.
That close, are you? You're
Due
not
date
showing.
is 8/20.
You're close.
Yeah. You know, health concerns and such.
They don't always follow a calendar there, you know.
Exactly.
They're not.
I had one come at 28 weeks.
Wow,
It's like,
that's crazy. I mean, usually the first one is later, but
first one came early.
yeah. I know it can swing, the pendulum can swing both ways.
Yep.
So, Jim, remind me the way it was discussed. Does there have to be? There doesn't have to be a chair and vice chair, or do we have to determine those roles specifically, or can we do 2 co-chairs?
We have the flexibility.
Great. That's what I like to hear. So I propose we go with a resolution on co-chairs. And, as long as we keep telling Karen and Todd what we're doing, I think we can switch around roles if after a few months things don't make sense, or other people show interest, or we have a couple vacancies, so some other people might show up, might have another nerd like me show up and just be ready to be suckered into this role.
Are you kidding? What other group can come in and start the day with quantum entanglement jokes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I propose yeah, I had to look up your last name. I propose Christopher Smith and Jim Lawson take on the role of co-chair going forward.
Second.
All in favor?
Hey,
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
thank you, gentlemen.
Aren't they supposed to bribe us a little bit or something for winning these positions of power?
In this economy?
Yeah, man. The thing about town government is the more positional status you have, the more work you have to do. And that's pretty much it. So with that, I think we're moving on to Karen's website. So you proposed that you're willing to go and find dead links and stuff?
I would go and make a review of the content.
Uh-huh.
Now, the deadline is the 20th, so we're not going to meet, obviously, before the stuff is due, so I assume I would draw up something with a proposal for replacement, do it by email,
Yep.
and then if we get enough, then I'll just send it off to Karen and we're good.
Yep.
Does that sound like a good plan? Okay.
Yep. Usual rules on reply all still stand. So people will be responding directly to you,
Okay.
and because we can't go back and forth with the whole DEC listserv over whether or not something should be included, or because then it becomes a unofficial committee meeting. But if you want a couple other people to discuss it with, we can designate it like a working group.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
That seems would make sense.
I'm willing to help with that. I was also
Yeah.
going to ask what the outcome of our decision-making is. Are we supposed to go in and make the changes in the current web pages,
Karen
or
said
just
there's a
tell
new,
Karen?
there's a new web design or something coming, and
Right.
this is the deadline to meet that, so I assume we just ship the information off and the web designer kind of puts it in place.
Okay, so they're going to make the changes as they transition
I
it.
assume we just say, here's what we want, and they
Okay.
make it happen. I assume. I mean, I'll contact Karen and say,
Okay.
is this the way that we should proceed? And
I think your assumption is right. I think there's a need to clean up all the dead links and things like that before they transition to the new system. And I think the thing that we need to start thinking about in the future is how, as a group, do we have a subcommittee or whatever that kind of keeps the website or our webpage interesting and pertinent, and it takes some focus and
And consistent work, unfortunately.
and it needs, for the folks that may be focusing on that, they need input from everybody. Hey, I think this would be interesting, you know. So it's just not them, you know, figuring out what content should be
I
there.
think it's a great idea, and maybe it should, on a regular basis, appear as an agenda item. Any new ideas, brainstorming around?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Resources?
it should definitely be one of the standing goal
Good.
agenda items on education. I think that's one. And so essentially, the pre-July 20 stuff is what needs to be deleted. And then meetings are where whoever's working on the website, you two, and possibly one other person, you guys or anyone else can bring stuff to discuss at a committee meeting to add to the website. So,
So,
yeah.
and didn't quite follow, was it, you said the pre-July stuff gets deleted?
Oh, so the
that?
the deadline that is in Karen's email in regards to the new webmaster coming in and redoing the website, we have to find like the dead links and there's,
Just on that resources page, right?
well, and
Not-
there's a couple other
Couple other
pages
pages.
that
Okay.
have a few other resource links and stuff kind of dispersed throughout them.
Okay.
And the other obvious issue is contact info. I think Michael's still listed as chair, for example.
Yeah.
So this will just be about correcting the contact info, finding everything that like just shouldn't be there anyway, and then we'll have to have a phase of rebuilding the website after that.
So just to confirm, who are the two fellow committee members I'm working with on this?
That's Steve.
You've got
Coleman.
one. You got. There you go.
I mean, I've.
You guys have a lot of experience in what the Energy Committee tends to put on the website.
And I've been editing the website as we have
Off and
had,
on, yeah.
CPC&H stuff, but yeah, it hasn't obviously been a priority of the committee to really keep the website, lively, which I agree, it takes some focus, it takes some effort for us to figure out what is it that is going to drive, traffic to this? What do we want to communicate to people?
Yeah, I think we put so much, rightly, it's not a regret, but like the entire EV ordinance exercise kind of pushed everything else kind of to the side. So, the website is, I think we haven't been able to make it as useful of a engagement tool as we could have, just because we've been a bit worried about complicated issues.
Also, I don't know if the current website has any tracking capabilities or statistics.
I'll ask, that's a good thought, I'll ask about that.
Because,
My deduction is the switch is probably going to enable a bit of that.
yeah, so that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll ask, that's a really good idea.
Because then at least we can find out, well, what are people clicking on,
That's right,
right now.
if anything.
It's a pretty crude website system at the moment.
Yeah. So
And
I
that-
assume a lot of that is going to be a functionality upgrade too.
And that should help. If we're getting more functionality in the new website, then some things will be a lot easier. Like, you can't even cut and paste pictures on the thing. It's just,
Editing the website
it's terrible.
should be easier. Okay, cool. Well, that's covered. I put Durham Day planning first.
Actually, could I?
Yeah.
One more administrative item. I was contacted by the Durham Democratic Committee. They're going to be having a candidates debate for candidates to New Hampshire legislature
Oh.
on August 27th. And they asked if we would consider between now and in August, so we could talk about it in the August meeting, but maybe people could start thinking about it, several questions related to energy. And they would most likely select one of those questions for the forum. And all we'll have to do is kick Mr. Rasmussen out during that conversation because he's one of the candidates, so we wouldn't want to give him a big heads up. But that's something that we should put onto the August agenda
Yeah, and
if we want to do it.
I got an email from, if I can find it.
Susan Richmond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys saw that?
Yep.
Yeah.
I could probably be fleshed out a little
I'll
bit more.
offer, I just, one piece of advice. Keeping in mind that all the candidates are center to left, come up with questions that would allow some differentiation in the answers from that kind of group.
Yeah. Do you think renewable energy is good is probably not going to have
Yeah,
a very interesting
A
context.
question like that is, waste of time. It's waste of our time. And frankly, they just won't select it. So,
Susan's suggestion on what can you do in the legislature, for climate change, but perhaps energy costs and energy mixture is a more effective mix. That was just some thoughts I had, but
so
we can probably come up with something a bit better.
So you're going to have 3 veterans and 4 people who are trying to become a freshman legislator,
So it's 7 people?
7 people.
Fun.
And the one thing they're drumming in the heads of the freshmen, don't try to do any legislation your first year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So a question like, what would you do? I'm told not to do anything.
that's interesting because for freshman legislators, they specifically have a time frame for
They do.
their submission of essentially candidate legislation. So I've been talking to people other than Susan. So anyways, let's work on it in August and
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I think that could be very helpful. Is it all just for this one district?
yes.
There's 4 seats to fill.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It still blows my mind that there's 400 people in the state legislature and they get paid $100. I come from the South where state Congress people, that's their living,
Oh, yeah.
you know? And there's
It's been the family calling for generations.
yeah. Yeah.
The other-
It's also the way we run our town with an iron fist.
The other thing related to that, and I think we can talk more about this in August, is in September, they do the legislative service request for potential new bills for returning members. And then newly elected, I believe, slot into November. I think it would be interesting to talk with Sarah Brock at New Hampshire Clean Energy and kind of get a sense of what they view as legislative priorities. Because if those priorities sync up with this committee and we feel they sync up with Durham, then we could potentially provide guidance to the town council about doing either resolution or having Todd send a letter in support of legislation that we think is important. But I think Sarah would be a good conduit for that type of information.
Yeah, I think she and Chris put out a article at the wrap up at the last legislative session about what they hoped would happen going forward.
But
It was a few months ago.
we can't make 6 things or dozen things a priority, and so what is the 1 or 2 priorities
Yeah.
that may fit well with Durham? So anyways, that's my administrative
No,
petition.
that's good.
I can also bring back the current view from the legislative subcommittee at CPCNH, because they, probably have similar, but maybe not identical priority lists, and
There's also kind of a hot button issue that came up, I think it might have been last week. One of the Republican legislators specifically called out Durham as
Communist?
overly restrictive on zoning. They're trying to come out with legislation that would apparently, as far as I can tell, direct towns to follow a state zoning code of some kind.
Yeah, there's.
No. So
Am I misinterpreting that?
You might be interpreting what he said correctly. What
Yeah.
he was complaining about and doing a really bad job at explaining
The quote was not
had to do
full
with building
English.
codes, not zoning codes.
Yeah, so he was conflating two things.
He was, and that came back to a couple years ago when M was on the planning board.
Yeah,
She was pushing for advancing to the next higher level of energy, the I guess at the time it would have been the 2021 version, and the state was still on 2018.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that-
Em and I talked
we-
about that with
we
Roger.
actually-
We
actually-
kiboshed that.
We actually adopted the higher zone back in 2011.
Yep.
So it was mainly, so Durham has been an outlier in terms of requiring higher energy standards than other New Hampshire communities. There may have been one or two others that adopted it. So, and the interesting thing is that feedback from developers, at least the ones that I had talked to, is they were somewhat frustrated by it because there were costs associated with
Yeah.
it. Costs in building and also costs in testing to meet certain requirements. The interesting thing is the feedback when they had completed their projects and had time with the projects running, they actually were expressed, they were pleased with the fact that they really had some tangible, they thought, operational costs, reductions, lower energy costs primarily. And, you know, it almost sounded like if they'd had the option, knowing what they knew, they would have done the same thing. But there certainly has been a lot of angst with the building community that or industry that other communities would adopt what Durham had. And then there's also been, you know, New Hampshire, you know, local control, but we're seeing from the standpoint of zoning, a lot of local control kind of eroding in terms of some of the zoning or state requirements, particularly around housing.
And it seems like there's some rumblings at the state level that like maybe those zoning rules, not building code rules, but those zoning rules should be enforced across the board on the state. And of course, this all links up with all the data center kerfuffles as well.
What were some of those operational things that builders were pleased? I mean, was it around like air sealing and things like that?
Yeah,
Or-
like ceiling insulation standards.
yeah.
Materials sometimes. But usually just like, yeah, you forced us to use good windows and like we noticed they work.
Although windows aren't a big energy.
Yeah.
It has to do more
100%.
with other things in the building.
But you're right in assuming generally building envelope related.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So, you said that was after a date I care about, right? 8/27? Mm-hmm. Cool. I'm preparing myself to just not sleep for 6 months.
Reflection. And,
And just meaningfully, right?
yes.
There's like a whole list of shit I need to
melancholy.
get done, like in the next month too. At least there's a floor in the nursery now. Okay, cool. So it's like one question, right? That's what you said at the beginning?
Yeah, we could come up with a couple of questions and then they would, if we want to, and then they would choose one.
Yeah.
They may choose to not choose any, but for the potential return on investment, it seems like spending some time on it would be worthwhile.
A two-part question regarding energy standards and data centers might be juicy enough to make someone bite. Okay. Anything else on the admin front? We're making good time, so I want to put the Durham Day thing last and just make sure we don't have too much to say about any of the other topics. Which brings Steve up to bat.
Okay. I send out a brief update, so it's June and the rates are being set for the next rate period, which starts in August. The CPCNH, his rate is now within a penny of the Eversource rate, so that was a great feeling of accomplishment for the CPCNH folks. So the rate, CPCNH rate is 14.949 and Eversource is 14.009.
And which level?
This is for residential. Is that what you
for
mean?
CPCNH? Is that like 33 renewable?
Yeah, no, that's the regular 25%.
That's a 25.
Could you repeat those rates?
So the CPCNH rate is 14.949 and Eversource is 14.009. So it's within 6.7% of the Eversource rate. So that was good news. And Eversource's rate increased almost 24% over their last period's rate. And, you know, they are now having to recover their under recovery, their under collection for the last couple of rate periods. They, according to their filings with the PUC, they are like $38 million behind. So they have to make that up over the next 12 months. And that is going to get reflected in their rates. They had proposed a rate of 15 cents, but the PUC wouldn't apparently approve that, so their rate came down to 14 cents because they said, you know, we'd be able to make more progress on this recovery if we could, you know, set it the rate at 15 cents, but the PUC wouldn't let them. So anyway, the takeaway from that is that expect more impact to rates in February when they have to set their rates again. So the CPCNH rates, you know, were set, you know, carefully based on the cost of power, you know, the anticipated cost of power, the contracts for power that they've procured ahead of time, the cost of service, which means the cost of delivering the power through Eversource and these other. So there's a slight variation in the CPCNH rates, whether you're Eversource or Liberty or Unitil, because there are differences in the cost of getting it through to the last mile. We also, of course, cover our operating expenses and a portion of it for the reserve fund. Currently, we have 0.67 cents for the reserve contribution, and that's going to keep us on a trajectory where we hope to have our reserve and up to a level by next April where we can be no longer financing any of our operating costs. So right now we have, you know, we have some financing balances, and hopefully those are all going to be paid off, and that will save us another bunch of money because of interest costs.
Yeah, so then once you hit that, you can probably be within a couple basis points.
Yeah. So anyway, we feel like we're on a good trajectory. We're getting back more competitive. The corrections for Eversource are coming in, and so that's helping, level the playing field again. And hopefully that disparity will continue to shrink over time.
Yeah, they'll probably try to get above 15, not just hit 15 during the winter, because historically, utilities can get away with a higher percentage rate increase during the winter
Yeah.
because of lower load.
So, yeah, anyway, so that was good news for the rate setting process. Everybody was sweating that one, and it's looking reasonable.
So is Eversource, I think last month, you had said 35 million needed for recovery, now it's 38, or so are they continuing to kind of?
The number
I
I
think
have is-
35 was the reserve line for CPCNH. 38 million is Eversource's current unrecovered expenditure
Right.
from
Oh,
them
okay.
poorly planning fuel procurement last year.
Okay.
They decided to pay an extra 200% for fuel.
So we did talk about this last night briefly at the town council. I think town council also kind of had a sigh of relief because it was going to be difficult to justify a 30% price differential like in the current. And I think everybody, including myself, when I was starting to put together the data, was surprised just how much the gap had changed. And plus the information you provided about essentially the underfunding. I think it was well received. People, I think, felt like they were on the right track.
Good.
Yeah, Eversource New Hampshire has they've kind of had to play catch up all year internally, and the only thing that has stopped them from having their rates like really jump up is the PUC preventing them from adjusting to completely recoup.
I mean, it's a tricky issue. Liberty, I don't know if you're, that's not a provider for us, but Liberty is another utility in New Hampshire. Their market share has shrunk, because a lot of their customers have moved to CPCNH. So they have far fewer customers now that they're buying power for, and yet they undercollected. So now they got a smaller base to spread their undercollection problem over. And so it's a death spiral. They're really struggling, and the more they raise their rates, the more the customers flee. So, that's an ugly problem that, I don't know exactly where they're going to end up.
It's the balance of dividends versus grid maintenance. And the more you favor dividends, the lower the quality of your grid maintenance is. It's like always been a trade-off.
Is that a historical problem for them? Is that what happened? Or?
It's something that's kind of started popping up in various ways for various utilities across the country after the deregulation movement in the 1990s. There's a difference between a public service and utilities became a commodity, and that's when that dichotomy became a bigger deal, because then things like private equity get involved and they want their cut no matter what.
Yeah.
Just a point of order. So we have a member from the public. Hi, Liz.
Oh, hey, Matt.
And Liz was kind of pushing the C-Pacer issue.
Yes, I thought the meeting started at 7:30 and I had that on.
And we got an email from Jim about C-Pacer today, but it's not on the agenda.
Yeah, no,
So I don't know if we
I was
can- I
under
don't
the
know if we might
impression.
tie some- if
Let's
we
squeeze it
can
in.
Squeeze that in. So I don't know how you want to handle Want to do that now, or?
Address yourself to the committee.
Yeah, I emailed Todd about the CPACER program after meeting with Katrine at the Freedom Cafe about CPACER.
Yep.
And just I saw it in the agenda, I saw it in the meeting notes from previous meetings, and then kind of lost track of it, and just, wanted to see where it's at. Looked like
Well, Jim
positive.
can tell you all about a resolution that happened yesterday.
Oh, great, I'm excited to
Well,
hear
no,
it.
It was discussed.
Yeah, do you want me to?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
So, a lot of this is going to be an update for everyone. First, so many programs that we do in Durham are really straightforward to implement. We basically do a resolution and we authorize the administrator to sign whatever documents are necessary. And possibly with another resolution, like for RSA 79E and other programs, it's exactly what we do. With CPACER, it's turned out that it's a little bit more complicated to put in place, but it's manageable. It's complicated, a little more complicated, because the state has some specific requirements for public hearings about determining the public benefit, and the New Hampshire Finance Banking Authority, they have a specific way that they want towns to implement it, which requires the towns actually doing an ordinance, which typically Durham would not do for a program. So I've been in contact with the chair of the Rye Energy Committee, because they're about 2 months ahead of us. And I feel really confident that we're now in sync with what Rye has done. So here's where we're at. We adopted CPACER originally back in 2010, but we never implemented it. So last night there was a resolution to essentially rescind the 2010 resolution adopting CPACER. So now we kind of have wiped the slate clean. The second is I have drafted an ordinance based on the New Hampshire Bank Finance Authority that I'm going to ask the town council to eventually adopt, even though it's not the way that we would normally do it. Because we do this, you're using the same template, what I've put together as a draft is essentially the same as what Rye has put together, and actually accepted as an ordinance and submitted to the banking authority.
And that was one of the advantages of them signing on to the program, right? The financing, the banking authority being able to kind of help standardize this.
Yeah, to administrate it. I mean, that was what I think was missing in 2010, although I think a number of particularly cities will have some issues with having to do an ordinance.
Right.
Okay, so,
Don't tell me what to do.
well, there's certain provisions that you need to be, I mean, basically, we're having to develop a town code, just like, we have leash laws,
Yeah.
stop signs. Well, we're having to develop a town code that's specific to CPACER, okay? And that's why it's so unusual. Right after the leash law, there's an ordinance related to a program that we want to adopt in the town code.
Yeah, and one's about public safety and the other.
Yeah, or leash laws or zoning or things like that. But, sometimes you just need to take the path of least resistance, rather than saying, we want to do it a different way or a better way or something like that. So anyways, I've drafted that ordinance. So,
Do you still have to draw the lines on the district?
yeah, so we need to do the following, is the town council, which I did not have them do yesterday, but the town council first needs to define the district. We're gonna, I think, do what we did in 2010, and what's recommended is make the entire town the district, okay? So it will not be specific areas, even though it's not applicable to residential. But make the entire town the district. The second thing that we
Can I
have to do.
ask something about that?
Yeah,
Just because I'm not as acquainted with the town's rules as I somehow am other towns' rules. There's no issue with the rural district along with the residential district, right? It's kind of the same thing.
so.
Okay, cool.
And most communities have residential and rural districts. And again,
Yeah.
the recommendation is to make your entire town the district.
Gotcha.
And you think, you may have a commercial business which is agriculture, and they may want to take advantage of CPACER. So then by the state RSA, we need to hold a public hearing that CPACER provides a public benefit, even though there'll be an incidental benefit to private parties. We have to have a public hearing, and the town council needs to determine that there is a public benefit.
So it's a town council hearing.
And then, so we'll probably do that in one meeting, and then the following meeting, we'll have to have a public hearing to actually adopt the ordinance. So I'd say realistically, we're going to be in the September timeframe. If we could have moved forward with a resolution allowing the town administrator to just sign the participation agreement, we could move forward much faster. But I think it's going to, there's no development right now that says, oh, we need CPACER, but I think that we're on the verge of it potentially providing some benefits. So I'm comfortable with the timing.
And is the logic for the requirement for an ordinance over a resolution that the finance authority just wants sort of greater teeth on the thing? Or?
Yeah, this is how we want it. Here's the template we
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
Here's the participation agreement.
Yeah.
And I hope to convince Todd and the council that, yeah, we may think there is a better way to do it, but let's just get it done. So, I don't know if is that helpful or any,
Yeah. Yeah.
so.
So yeah, it seems like a relatively easy thing for us, which is why we recommended it.
So it's
So this
Jim,
committee discussed it, we sent our recommendation to the council, and now it's kind of out of our hands.
where do you see the committee helping in either finding the benefit for the town or during public hearing? What would you want the committee to be doing?
That is a good question. I'm going to need to think about it. My plan in the council communication is to outline what I see as the public benefits. But maybe if the committee has a chance to review that
And
in
endorse
advance
it?
of that meeting, maybe it could be in the context of the Energy Committee sees the following, benefits. I know in other communities, there's been no resistance to the idea of there being a public benefit. Although the only towns I'm aware of that have implemented are Lebanon and Rye. Maybe there's somebody else, but those are the only two.
And of course, the other public benefit that you can always try to cite is more commercial investment, changes, tax burdens,
Yeah,
theoretically. If you want to keep talking, yeah, please come up.
So I'm thinking a lot about the UNH development that's going on with public partnerships with private entities, and that they might also be willing to say, at a public meeting, that this would benefit us greatly. To be able
Yeah, I
to
believe
do that.
UNH has expressed their approval of it to Todd.
Okay.
But I don't know. You
The
probably-
Edge.
The Edge? Is
Yeah,
that-
thinking of the Edge, I'm thinking of the research and innovation, how they're trying to build that up.
Yeah.
In a bit more of a capacity and get more private industry on campus.
And so they're located on campus, but it's a lease, so they would be eligible, but they're not property owners.
Right, so that's where I had a question, was like,
Yeah.
does that still qualify in that realm if they're,
Well, I mean, I think a lot of those monies are kind of in the form of sort of investment type partnerships.
But it's, I mean, C-PACER is a tax thing on a property.
Yes.
And UNH owns the property, it doesn't have a tax burden, and they're leasing the property, so they're the,
That's a question for UNH's lawyers, because, I mean,
and maybe the C-PACER, because I think, I mean.
the way UNH
So
is
we-
sort of a land grant university, but also not.
The utility, it's a lot of
Yeah,
things, right?
you know, like,
The challenge is that so C-PACER cannot be used by municipalities. It cannot be used, it can be used by nonprofits.
in UNH,
I don't think-
we're not allowed to tell UNH anything, so.
Well, I don't think it's, I think state agencies and the state, other state entities are also not allowed to use it.
Correct. So what I don't know the nuance is if
The mechanisms.
UNH owns the buildings and is leasing them, can a leaseholder do improvements using C-PACER? You know, I mean, there's some complexities, but it's really the New Hampshire Business Finance Authority
Yeah.
that we need to ask the
Okay.
question.
So I hadn't looked, when I was reading through it, I hadn't thought about that development, but I can read through it again.
Yeah, well, the mechanism, the enforcement mechanism is a lien on the property. So
Right.
if they're
So
not able
there's
to put a
not-
lien on the university's property, then. they're
There's
not
no,
gonna be able to get
there's
a
no
loan.
collateral. Right.
in which case would it be better then to be talking amongst the local business owners that are more like downtown that would benefit?
That's what our discussion has been, is how would it benefit local businesses or stimulate
Yeah, we hadn't been thinking
Investment.
about UNH at
So we
all.
hadn't-
Okay.
Yeah.
because of the tax, it's tied to the property tax, which doesn't exist.
And it can also be used for multi-unit housing when there's 5 or more units. So there's certainly some older properties in Durham that probably could benefit from the investment, plus any new development that occurs in Durham.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly some multi-unit buildings that may or may not have owners that are like, man, I'd really like to start over.
And there are some complexities for the developers that are easy to work through, but for instance, they can't just make an independent decision that they're going to do C-PACER. They need to essentially get the buy-in or permission of the primary financiers of the project and things like that, because they'll be putting a lien, you know, there will be a lien on the property ahead of those financiers. So they have to be involved in saying it's okay, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, especially on the actual construction work financing side, there'll be entities that have no problem with that and other entities that object to it. I know. I know my dad, one of my dad's bosses building houses in Atlanta had no problem taking out loans against a lien on the property. But, you know, he had another boss who would never imagine doing that. And so it depends on how people's cash flows work.
What I envision though is that the primary financiers of a project may view it favorably because it is a cost-effective way to make energy improvements that end up positively affecting the pro forma from two standpoints: reduced operational costs and reduce essentially financing costs to do those improvements. So it may be that somebody using C-PACER ends up with a pro forma that is better than the pro forma that they would have with their financer without the program.
The rates are certainly attractive in the current market.
So,
And it is available for new construction.
yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, you know, as this goes forward, you're subscribed to Friday announcements?
I believe they go to my husband's email that I can tell him that.
Yeah. It'll probably be announced either in the Energy Committee section or in the probably the Town Council section. And like he said, the Town Council will be having a public hearing on the public benefit for it, which, you know, if you're a supporter of it, they'll definitely want to hear that.
So to net it out, I mean, I have two big things we have one meeting in August, and I have two big things on the agenda. One is to do a presentation on parking utilization and statistics downtown. And the second is C-PACER. And the C-PACER is going to take a hefty, well-documented council communication. It cannot be a council communication that's 2 pages saying this is great, go ahead with it. So my plan is we get through July, I'm going to send something out to everybody in case you have comments, whether they're substantive, hey, you need to add this in, or hey, your grammar here, you're writing like an engineer, you know, make it sound cleaner. But because I need to have that put together for early August, so. And I'd never heard of C-PACER 3 months ago, so.
Is that something Clean Energy New Hampshire can help you with?
Yeah, we've been engaged with Sarah Brock, but you know, they have only so many cycles, and a lot has been focused on legislative, and so we're depending more on interacting with the New Hampshire Municipal Association and then the Banking Authority.
In our early conversations about CPAs, we sort of brought that together with some inquiries we had gotten from Waysmeet, and I don't know if we ever figured out whether they were above or below the threshold and the kind of improvements that they were trying to make. I don't remember how many dwellings they have. Is it 5, 6, something like that?
I mean, my sense is that they're not individual dwelling units.
Okay, it's like
But
one
I'm
whole.
not, I don't know how to read the
Yeah.
New Hampshire code.
You were
on
talking about
dwelling
Wastemeet's
units.
energy usage
Yeah.
question. They had to pull the trigger long before this
Oh, they
was
did.
going to
Okay,
get.
they were.
Yeah,
that,
they already had.
They were that close.
Yeah.
And
People were
anyway,
going to get cold quick.
Yeah.
So,
I bring that up because it might be helpful for the council to identify. Okay, this is a good example
Right.
of like the floor, and you know.
it definitely would have gotten them. No. They were. Their most expensive option was probably a fifth of the minimum loan amount for C-PACER.
Is the minimum 100K?
500, I think.
500. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I'm going to check quick.
Yeah.
Three
I
different
don't-
thresholds.
I don't think it's that high, but I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I think when I was talking to them about it, it was going to be hard to
Yeah.
hit it either way.
Yeah.
Because I think their options were like 50K, 80K, and just over 100K.
Okay.
And yeah, they went with a moderately efficient system, but they still had to use some fossil fuels.
Yeah. What did they do?
If I recall correctly, they went with a high efficiency burner and a few mini splits, but they didn't do the whole
Pull everything out.
fully
Yeah.
electric
Yeah.
setup.
Yeah.
I think they had. I don't think they told me whether or not they wanted to go with one of their electric boiler options or not.
Yeah.
It was a while ago. Do we have anything on that we need to talk about when it comes to the capstone projects? I assume we're done with CPAs here.
Yeah, I think so. I met with Aaron Hale today.
Cool.
So they have an August 1st deadline, but she says it's a soft deadline. We did the project on the lighting last year for the capstone sustainability projects, and that went well.
Did anyone dig up the old ones?
Dig up the old what?
The old projects we had batted around last year.
Well, I know what 3 of them. One was the lighting.
Yeah.
There were 5 or so on the prior minutes. It was lighting, it was, we had mentioned somewhat tentatively the data center piece.
Oh yeah, right.
There was,
I had submitted one on police EVs.
yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
redoing that.
Redoing that
I
study.
submitted one on polling the community on finding out what their challenges are and
Right.
attitudes and stuff
And I
like that.
put one in on community geothermal.
Correct.
Feasibility for community
Yeah, and then I think
geothermal.
the other one was carbon.
Embedded carbon.
Yeah,
Embodied carbon.
Embodied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stevens.
So we're welcome to submit them. She gave me a little bit of guidance that, some of the big open-ended things are not so attractive to students who have a limited amount of time to do this. So if there are people who would like to mentor a group of students and have a project, I can see if we have the write-ups from the previous ones still, and I can help get those organized and get those submitted. I was planning on resubmitting the community geothermal.
Yeah. If you like yours, you should.
Okay, well, who will do the funneling to UNH then?
Oh,
So
Aaron
there's
Hale was.
Aaron Hale runs the class, and I'll send you the link to the form. And so you can fill out the form
Okay.
for that.
What's involved? Is it like an abstract of the problem or task?
It's a description of what we're after, and
You want me, I can?
Yeah.
And they asked for some links to existing resources to get the team started.
Yep.
A list of deliverables that they
Yep.
want to get from them. And then somebody who can give a couple hours a week to help guide the team through the semester.
Yeah, so it's like a research prospectus Google Doc.
Yeah.
should I send that form out to individuals? Should I send it to,
It seems like that's a good one for the whole DC.
okay?
Yeah. And that due date is August 1st.
Soft.
Tentative.
So, that's what
She
the
won't
date
hold
she
it
put.
against us.
Right, so if we, if it's not in by then, they will still be considered on a rolling
Yeah.
basis.
If there's interest, I mean, I'm happy to take a stab at the data center question. I mean, I guess the more the merrier if we, just more for them to
She likes collecting them.
consider,
She said before that sometimes old ideas come up again when
Yeah.
when certain students come along.
Yeah.
Does she keep these as a kind of a roster of past proposals so that she can always dig into this and say?
They usually will roll
I wonder
them
why
over
we
to
need
the
to keep
spring.
resubmitting
I think,
the
I
same
think she wants to
ideas?
be sure that we're still interested. So I don't think that she wants to go back to a year ago and assume that that's.
Finding the person willing to sponsor the students is,
So does that mean someone on the committee who submits the proposal is
Is,
volunteering to?
or someone you're
or finding a
associated
volunteer
with
to-
who's,
I can put your name on mine.
yeah.
I'll push your name on mine.
Good.
Kid for tat. Well, I mean, I would back off then because I wouldn't have the expertise or the capacity to supervise students.
okay.
I hadn't.
So that's an important
In
part.
past discussions of this, I had not known that was.
Yeah, it wasn't really that clear
feature.
last time. Yeah,
It's,
I didn't,
I don't get that.
if you have any sort of project management experience, it's a piece of cake, or team leadership or anything like that. 'Cause basically all I was doing was, the professors provide them with a template of what they should be getting accomplished, what they need to do in the way of paperwork, having a work rate, having a schedule plan, having agendas set up. They are responsible for getting all the meetings. You need to show up as if you're, the supervising manager who's like, yeah, you're on track. Yeah, I think you're going the wrong way here. Try go this way. Give them a little advice on how to get through stuff, and just make sure that, they're 22, most of them, with, and they really have a hard time, I'm not going to say dealing with time management, but knowing how long things take. So making sure that they're staying on, that they're not getting a little too lax and trying to get ahead of it.
And the projects are so diverse that subject matter expertise that's what they look for when partnering with the community. They not only want the project ideas, but they want some subject matter
Yeah.
expertise
Make
or
sure
some
that
experience.
that they're
Right.
going to deliver what it is
Right.
you want them to deliver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Search your soul.
It's
I
searched.
know what to do.
I know what to do.
No, I don't, yeah.
Okay,
It
so
doesn't
that's what we're signing up for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Okay, go back to just a question. I wanted to verify this before I said it. So there's no minimum loan amount
Oh,
with
really?
CPACER. The minimums are set on a deal-by-deal basis with the private capital providers funding the project through the Business Finance Authority.
No kidding.
So,
But
But the
I did
financiers
get
have minimums.
I did get the
Right.
impression they didn't want to do very small projects.
I don't think CPACER in itself has a minimum. I think the financiers
Yeah.
have,
Yeah, there were 3 different financiers, and they were
Yeah.
like for small projects, middle projects, and huge projects.
That's
And the
that
big
sounds-
one was $1 million minimum to get if you.
that
but I
sounds
think-
more like what I'm remembering.
Yeah, but the smaller ones were lower.
Oh, okay.
okay.
Like 100?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
So these are things that we'd be good to have to
What's a couple of orders
involve
of
in
magnitude between
involve in
friends?
our contribution to the public hearing.
Okay, yeah. I'm sure you guys will iron all that out before the public benefit hearing.
All right. Data centers?
This is a nice new phase of my life. When I'm just like, oh, I don't have to care about anything that happens in September.
Well, there's one thing.
Yeah. It's none of your business. So, data centers sound like a research idea. I don't think we want to go down the role of talking too much about any type of ordinance recommendation or anything on data centers yet. I didn't see too much information flying around in email. I saw, I think what you.
Calculator.
Yeah, the calculator was good.
That was interesting. That's interesting.
So the conversation last month
Yeah.
has kind of exposed a few things, and the town
Our conversation.
Yes, at the meeting, because the town planner looked at the zoning and concluded that data centers as a principal use, even as a ancillary use, are not allowed by the zoning. Now, we could say, oh, well, that's good. But the problem is what people are focusing on are called hyperscale campus data centers. The Facebook, Amazon, whatever. But 60% of the processing is done with enterprise data centers. And there are also co-location data centers, which I refer to as warehouse data centers. In an academic community, enterprise data centers
All the time, yeah.
and co-location data centers, I think, not only exist, but are critical. So suddenly I've become concerned that with all the focus on data centers, but really being the hyperscale, that something at the west edge or somewhere else in town is going to have a huge data center component that's not hyperscale, but like enterprise data center, and we're going to say our zoning doesn't allow it.
So
Okay.
where we thought we were under-regulated, we may be over-regulated.
Right, and we've come up with some examples of things that have just been phenomenal value to the town and the university, that you'd say, well, wait a minute, if I looked at the, if I looked at the table of uses, they shouldn't be able to do that. And so,
If it's not for profit though, it's not a data center, it's just a server.
Oh, anything happening at the edge fall, because it's the private-public thing, does fall under our zoning. We have to write an ordinance just to allow it right now.
so, I mean,
If you want to set up a 20-rack server farm for a
Well-
research project,
Setting up a planned unit, well, that big, see,
so
and
that's,
this falls into the issue of, is data center actually a use or not? And I'm not sure I totally agree with our town planner. I mean, we don't, as an example,
it's
Isn't
a
it-
function.
it's a function that's attached to the office. We allow offices.
I mean, that was the whole thing with Tech
Right,
Drive.
the whole point is, and that was the question I
Yeah.
raised early on in the discussion, is how many computers does it take to be a data center?
Well, and
So-
the zoning for Tech Drive, like, we weren't really allowed to ask
So
what was
let-
going to go
let-
in there.
let me provide an analogy in terms of clarity, and also, if I have a business, and in my business, I have 2 coffee break rooms, and I brew coffee, okay? Can somebody say brewing coffee is not an allowed use? No, nobody's going to do that. And so if somebody has 20 racks of servers, it's
But that's why I
just
said
part of it. But
you can tell someone selling
but-
coffee isn't allowed.
But what happens if out at 121 Technology Drive, okay, a company comes in and says, for my enterprise, I want to put a data center in there, okay? Are we going to say no? Because if that was the primary use of that portion of the building or a building, then our zoning doesn't allow that, okay? So I'm not as concerned about saying, the servers aren't allowed, or things like that are reasonable. What I'm concerned about is everybody jumping on the bandwagon. I'm concerned about hyperscale data centers and us being complacent about it, or putting an ordinance in place and all of a sudden finding a really, really good business application downtown, 121 Technology, something associated with the university that the zoning would apply. And by the way, the university really goes out of their way to try and conform to either our zoning or input to it, except for when you get onto the core campus. But so that's why I just don't think that like the hyperscale project, I think would be very interesting to have it looked at. But I think that there's going to be some urgency on looking at data centers to make sure that we are not precluding things that everybody goes, oh, that's a victory, when in fact it's really not good
But
for the
is
town.
data center the only term that's being bandied about? I would think there would be this is a classification exercise about saying when you have so many, I don't know how you measure it, CPUs, server modules, then you graduate from just being something you can set up to something that's an enterprise, and then eventually it goes up to be hyper.
Yeah, the term data center is inherently ambiguous, so
Yes.
people can do whatever they want.
Yeah,
with it.
That's right.
So there's
like
evolving,
AI.
your point's right on, there's evolving terminology, okay? And the terminology that's being used is hyperscale, which has characteristics in terms of capacity and requirements for energy and water. The next is co-location data centers. That's where a company essentially rents a portion of the capacity or the area for their equipment and enterprise. And so I think our zoning is going to need to start considering that granularity. But what I'm finding is in the market, in the industry, it's generally those three terms that are being used to describe data centers. So.
And then there's,
And there isn't necessarily a clean break in each group with
course.
regards to size.
and then other people have like a numbering system, a level numbering system where level 5 or 6 is analogous to hyperscale, and those are based on megawatts of usage. People are still arguing about, what classification levels to use.
So just some context. So I checked with our energy office at UNH, and we essentially have 2 data centers. One is in Morse Hall that runs research computing, and one is at Levitt Lane for technology, for IT stuff.
And neither of those are for profit, so then you could argue, are they even really data centers, or are they just...
Functionally.
Yeah.
So in
But
collectively...
we would call them server groups in old networking
Right.
parlance.
So in terms of energy usage, combined, they're under 250 kilowatts,
Yeah,
which is not, it's significant, but, and
you don't
I
start
was,
worrying until you get
but
megawatts,
from a community, from a zoning perspective, or is the energy use intensity something? I mean, so people aren't buying an old student rental house and filling it with,
Well, so hyperscale centers,
so this would not be hyperscale, but this would be if there were, I think one concern is that there's a pressure on the local community resources.
yeah, so, and that's what they're seeing. So with hyperscale, the energy requirements can go between generally 650 and 1,000 megawatts for one center.
Right.
Seabrook produces 1,200 megawatts.
And
So-
our local substation has about 10 megawatts of available capacity.
Out of Madbury?
Yeah, the Madbury-Lee Durham substation.
Oh, I didn't know
the
it was
one
that low. I
feeds-
would have thought, wow. that-
It was 18 or 19 total, I think. Maybe it's 22. I was just looking at the hosting capacity map.
But how-
Anyways,
how-
a couple
how-
orders of magnitude lower.
How could they do a data center in Nottingham then?
Right.
They're probably proposing to build their own mini substation and tap directly into the transmission grid.
I thought they squashed that.
They
Well,
sort of did.
Oh,
but I just,
it came back.
I'm surprised that substation is only 10
Yeah,
megawatts. But
he keeps talking about great.
But the other thing is that I found interesting is that these centers consume up to 1.8 billion gallons of water per year.
And then people argue about how you calculate water consumption, whether or not a closed loop system actually uses water.
I realize that, but even if it's a closed loop system, there are impacts. And
I know, it's just going to be
aquifers and
another
so-
point of debate.
So I think the hyperscale is
Yeah.
like almost too big to deal with, but I think we need to put things in place that assure that the co-location and the enterprise data centers, if they come to Durham, feel that Durham is a community that understands it and wants it, because frankly, that's something that
Yeah,
provides value.
until I found out the guy proposing the Nottingham site was closely connected to members of the state legislature. I wasn't even sure how he was able to get or propose to get an alteration of terrain permit at the state level, because it's such a big build. But I guess he found a way around that.
Well,
The
he's
other-
taking over an existing site that already has a big building on it.
Yeah, I know. But
The
still, the
US
alteration of terrain is...
The other thing that's happening sort of in the macro environment and the big players is that the back-end infrastructure is becoming overbuilt,
Yep.
right? And so Facebook is starting essentially a cloud computing sort of operation because they are overbuilt in compute. And so they're backing off of some of that infrastructure investment because they're recognizing that there's no revenue on the front end, right? And so they've got
And they'll never get as big as Google or
Right.
Microsoft.
So the attraction for developers May, I mean, this is news as, you know, in between our last meeting and this meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, the attraction for developers to, you know, put in that infrastructure investment where Facebook says, we already have the infrastructure, we'll just sell you the service like AWS is, I mean, it's just like changing very fast, right? OpenAI is petitioning the government to essentially to provide subsidies because they are also overbuilt, right? So we should definitely pay attention to the hyperscale, but I appreciate the balance of, so there's hyperscale and then there's just, we don't want to close off sort of a microscale, which, I mean, virtually any technological innovation is going to involve, I mean, it's going to involve servers, it's going to involve, you know, that kind of thing. So we don't want to
UNH
close
is
that.
load alone.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, this is all just to say we should keep monitoring it.
And I started this conversation by being like, I don't think we have much to say on this subject. Yeah, it's good, and it should. That level of concern in detail. That's what we need to be able to talk authoritatively about before it
And whoever brought it up
matriculates.
last meeting, shame on you.
That was me.
That's good. That's good.
That was me.
Do we have time for Durham Day?
Yeah, we should. How are people feeling? I've seen some of your work.
Were we supposed to get the logos and stuff from someone?
So I emailed Robin about the logo. I haven't heard back. And so the proposal last time, which I think is good, is sort of eliminate the header, just have the Durham town logo, and then the new DEC logo. So hopefully, Robin.
Oh,
if anybody has
Ask Todd. Just email Todd. Robin gave it to Todd.
Robin gave it to Todd.
I'm like 90% sure of that. Yeah.
Has anybody seen the logo? Do they have it on their computer?
I voted on it
so
here.
we approved a almost there logo with a couple of revisions, and I haven't seen sort of the final.
Was Steve Fells working on it?
No,
I don't
Robin.
think
Boyd.
so.
It was Robin and Forsey, I think.
Okay. No, this was past Forsey.
Yeah, it was Robin was the one dealing with PNGs and vector graphics.
Yeah. Robin
and
was.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
Anyway, if maybe Todd, I can email Todd to see if he has it, but
yeah, and just remember as you're putting these together, you've got to use vector graphics.
yeah.
And if you have something that is a different, raster graphics or something, maybe send it over to me and I'll get it converted for you if you aren't sure how to do that.
Yeah.
And what's your drop dead date for people sending you their final files?
So,
2 weeks from now.
So I talked with Staples today, and I really think that Friday the 24th of July, if people could. Now, if something comes in later, I don't want to make it sound like we can't do it, and I have them do it in-house rather than out-of-house, so the turnaround time is pretty quickly. But what I've found in the past is there always needs to be some adjustments or things like that. So if we could have that as an objective, that would be great. But if somebody's a little bit later than that, just let me know.
Just in case Todd doesn't have the logo, does anybody have a personal email address for Robin? All I had was his town, and I know he's off council now, so I don't even know if that email. It didn't come back to me, but.
We'll have Karen track them down or
Okay,
something.
yeah.
I do. It's robin.w.vogt@gmail.
Thanks. Robin.w.voghd?
Just VOGT.
Okay. I got it. I'm good. Thanks. Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Awesome, thanks.
Any concerns on posters that people have?
How many do you think we're going to have?
How many? fun. So I did, by the way, I did find Charlie's, that sort of 3-level kind of thing. And so I appreciate everybody's input from last time, moving away from the pure mini split into what's the framework, the sort of pyramid for like first insulation and ceiling and then that and that. So that's essentially going to be the design of this poster, is just here's what you do first, here's what you do then, and then, you know, here's how mini splits fit into sort of an overall thing. So anyway, yeah. What for the template? What's the general size?
We've generally done what, 2x3s?
24 by 36.
Okay, yeah.
Did we talk about the IR camera? Doing a poster on the IR camera, or bringing the IR camera? Because just letting people know they can check it out at the library. You know, that's a good one. That doesn't necessarily have to be a 2x3. That can just be a sign next to the. We'll take the camera out of the library. Put it there.
What would be a cool way to make that work on a table?
Some of the pictures.
Oh, the pictures. I'm almost thinking like.
Bring the camera there.
We'll bring the camera and have have a house and fill it with ice. You know what I mean, or something like that. You know, I mean, just to like have actually.
We could.
I have a dollhouse I can donate.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
a cooler with drinks.
because otherwise you're not going to get just on the. I mean, you're not going to get the temperature differentiate.
That would be a big, yeah. People would like that.
You know, it'd be very hands-on and
The
fun.
same dollhouse has been to the water festival.
Excellent.
It is from 6 to 8:30. Yeah, I was thinking maybe it being summer, that wouldn't be the most useful, but
We put ice in it.
Yeah, exactly.
ice will do it. Yeah.
You know, I've seen demos of them in like a science museum. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same thing, but just in a regular room, you look at people's faces, you look at their hair.
In an air-conditioned room, definitely.
You look at their glasses, the IR doesn't go
Yeah.
through the glasses, so things, you know,
And
they
Fred,
could,
I can
they
loan you
could
my
see.
camera,
Yeah.
and you can play with it as
Yeah.
long as you want.
Yeah.
I've got lots of good
Yeah.
pictures too that I can
Yeah.
just.
See my cold heart.
Yeah, I can send you pictures from my house or anybody else who's gotten,
Yeah, you did the
Used
good
it.
outdoor ones, right?
Yeah, I got some out.
Yeah, you have great ones. Yeah.
So, yeah, just bringing the camera, and you know, we can probably make it a
So,
little 8.5 by 11 one.
Yeah, a little flyer.
so I have two that I was, so far, one was a CPCNH map of participating, and then the other one was just an updated version of my solar panels on my house, which was, you know, a previous one.
I still have to try and get the municipal numbers from Durham's
Yeah,
library and stuff.
I just wanted to get, you know, the logos because that was the only thing.
so I have a budget for about 4 or 5.
4 or 5.
So, and then I have for 8.5 by 11s that you may want to have on the table. I've got the Lexian stands for those that I have, so those will be available. And I assume Parks and Rec is providing a table.
Yeah, they usually provide one. I can provide tables, and yeah, I think it looks like even if I completely slack off, we'll have more than 4 signs. So I'm willing to pitch in to make up the gap.
I didn't even think about the 8.5, 11 sort of distribution. I think what
Yeah.
I'll do is I'll clean up that 4C document, and I mean that can.
That's a good one.
That can just be a handout. That was super useful, very detailed.
And that's another thing, you know, like Steve, if you want your CPCNH ones to be an 8.5 by 11 handout that people can take, like with a map, or Yeah, just pointing out that for all of these documents that you guys are working on, if you think it'll work better as a handout than a 2 foot by 3 foot poster, like you don't have to limit yourself.
The problem in the past, I think, Steve, sometimes is we've had is like how much room there is.
Oh yeah, I had like 2 under the table last year because there just wasn't enough space.
Yeah.
And if you want to, like, a pop-up canopy, I think it's 10 by 10, I've got one of those. So,
Yeah, I recommend the canopy.
if we're at 5 or 6 large posters, that's, that's doable. But see, the thing like with CPC and H is after Durham Day, we can cycle them out into the lobby.
Yeah.
And those are all my frames, by the way, so we get to choose. We get to choose what we want there.
Yeah, I actually still have 2 of those slotted wood mounts if you want them back.
So the deadline is the 24th.
Yep.
Should we have some kind of collection subcommittee or something? I'm worried about everything going to you, Jim, and there needing to be a lot of work on the 24th or anything.
If there's a lot of work, all of a sudden I'm going to put out a call for a subcommittee.
Good,
you know.
yeah.
But, I think my job is going to be just to like do some tests, make sure that
Final
the
production.
graphics, and then,
Yep.
get them up to Staples and.
Do we want to say if needed, the 2 of you? Because you're taking on
You have a
co-chair.
co-chair.
and-
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
co-chair.
Make him do stuff. He says he wants to. Make him regret it.
And I'll distribute the template as soon as I get that logo from either Robin or Todd.
Yeah. And this coming month, yeah. Bother me if you need me for something, or if you need something to happen, or if you're looking for something. Do want to help if I can. I'm just going to be running around like a chicken with my head cut off, so I might need some prompting. Which I do under normal situations anyway.
So I'm thinking this CPC&H doesn't necessarily make sense as a big poster, since we're not really asking for action from anybody. I mean, we're already a member, we're not asking people to join. Rate information is probably what they're interested in. So 2 years ago, this might have been relevant. I don't know that it makes.
I mean, the
That
first
makes
one we
sense
did
now.
totally, when we were trying to get, the education out about the opt-in, opt-out, and encouraging people not to opt out, it totally made sense as a 2x3 at that point. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I don't know that, and I guess you could talk about whether you want an example. This, the house example and the output, this could be an 8x10 handout, easily, maybe make more sense.
And I was thinking about the EV chargers. If we just
Stations,
make
the
a
charging
map,
stations.
being able to pass out a map that just shows where in the town
Oh, okay.
there are chargers.
I like that. Because, I was going to ask about that too.
People
I'm
are
like,
just going to look at it and be like, oh, cool, and then they'll forget the next time.
okay, yeah. So do like a map and highlight where they are.
Yeah.
And then we'll hand that out, kind of, like a 8x11 of that. I think that'd be good. 'Cause
And
looking at,
he
a
says he
big
has the
poster,
Lexan mount, so people will still see it at the table.
Last time, I think, but
Okay, yeah.
it gives
Cool.
people-
Because, the clear ones that
Some
stand up,
numbers.
the sheet. Like if you
trust
go to
you.
a doctor's office and they're like, remember these flu things.
It's just like a stand, yeah.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
I was worried
Do you, on a slightly different topic, have you been involved in the charge point configuration of the new ones that the Animal Rec Center?
I just saw that it happened. Yeah.
Okay. So I need to find who's doing the administration. And it could be UNH, it could be the town.
Yeah, I
There's some
sent in,
ambiguity in the rates. The energy rate is 40 cents a kilowatt hour. The town chargers are, I think, 25 cents a kilowatt hour.
and I have
There's
an
not a
issue
parking-
with
there's-
getting into both the Solar Edge and the ChargePoint data, because
Right.
I already have a personal account
So
in
I
both of
didn't know
those
if you had
platforms.
results. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll follow up with
Oh,
Todd
yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
It's unclear at those stations if you have to also pay for parking or if parking is part of the charge point.
The parking is the fee.
Well, because it's a paid lot through Park Mobile. And right now, there is no parking fee, it's only an energy fee. I've been using the station.
Oh,
It went
okay.
from 0 cents per kilowatt hour to 40 cents per kilowatt hour.
Early adopter.
And there's no breakout of a parking rate or energy rate or a penalty if you sit there too long.
I
So-
think that, from what I recall, that was the idea, is that they would set the energy rate high enough that it would pay for the parking space and the energy.
That
Right.
is a university lot, so it'll be the university who's going to.
Right, so I just wanted, if they can be combined into one charge, or if they, or a sign needs to be there to say you still have to pay for parking. Anyway, I think before the semester starts, I'll work on
Yeah, pretty sure.
getting that cleared up.
Yeah, pretty sure
Okay.
you're not supposed to have to pay for parking on top of it, but
Right,
you work for them, not me.
yeah, I do. Okay, I'm the UNH rep, I will,
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Okay.
the question turns into a motion.
Mike Klein would be proud.